on Facebook.
And the Facebook feed's live.
Yeah, all right. One step closer.
We are live on Twitch.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hello, Internet. How are you?
11.
Hi there.
Whoa. Creep
Hey,
factor.
you're
Yay. You're live.
All right.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Twitch stream. I'm going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Rob Hallock.
Yeah, I'm Rob, and I do technology marketing for AMD.
I'm James. I do everything else. I'm
Wow.
kidding. Business development. So I interface with a lot of different partners and cool things like that.
I'm Donnie, and I'm the desktop processor marketing manager. Work tightly with these guys, and we give you guys the information you need. And we've got some questions from you today. And I'm going to start off with this question. I couldn't find any mini ITX motherboards. Is there anything holding that back, or just the partners are a bit slower with those compared to the regular ATX sizes?
Ooh.
Well, so happens we've anticipated this question with this little box right here. This is the BioStar X370 GTN, the first ITX motherboard for Ryzen. I'm going to open it up. We're going to do the unboxing. I actually got this yesterday. And a nice little piece of kit here. Throw off the foam. So, there it is. That's the X370 GTN from BioStar. I've got an 1800X Ryzen in the socket right now. Going to do a full build this week or the next week with it. Just make a really small, powerful little system. And, I don't know, probably throw some DDR4 3200 in there, and we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
But that's available in retail right now.
And there's a B350 version as
That's
well.
right, that's
So
right.
you got a couple of different price points to go after, different models for different availability. I think basically for the overall market, then we're going to see a couple of other partners introduce maybe next month, the month after. So we'll see a more of an array of mini ITX options in this summer.
Yeah, I think, final note on that. I think something to keep in mind is that ITX motherboards are harder to manufacture. The layout is more condensed, and it's just tougher to make. So it's pretty typical that the smaller form factors take a little longer than ATX. ATX is also a lot more popular in terms of volume. So as we roll into the summer months, people will start seeing a lot more ITX motherboards, and that's going to make me happy, and I know it'll make you guys happy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool how the BioStar put the M.2 slot on the back, so you still get
The full layout.
full layout, all the lanes and everything for PCIe for graphics as well as the M.2. So this is a nifty little board. Very
Very
nice.
pretty. BioStar has some nice looking boards, by the way. I saw some of their new products, and it's nice to see them getting back in the high performance game. So
Yeah.
Oh, look, Type C as well.
Yeah.
For the USB. There you go.
The backplane.
alrighty.
What else
So,
you got?
hope that answers the question. Next question up. Which Ryzen is right for me? And we have no other information about the person who asked that question or what they'd like to do with their computer. So
Ooh.
Well,
take it away, Rob.
Well, I guess it depends on what you do on your PC, right? I think most people would probably be happy with the 1600 or 1600X, kind of a 6-core CPU, 12 threads. It's a big step up from the standard quad-core CPU that you might get with the other guy. You get great gaming experience, but you get all that other stuff too that goes along with having the more cores and threads. You could stream at the same time. You could, if you're like me, do theory crafting in World of Warcraft at the same time. You could edit video at the same time and still play games. So I have 2 monitors on my desk at home. 6 to 8 cores is really valuable. Speaking of 8 cores.
Yeah, 8 cores is probably where I would go. My kids are on the 6-core boxes because they like to do the gaming and streaming, but I'm an 8-core guy. I love the extra threads for movie recoding. You know, the kids these days, I'm surprised that I need to do video editing for homework. I'm like, how did this happen? But no, it's a
almost
real
2020, so
Right.
we're the future now.
Yeah, we are in the future.
Yeah.
You know, just from making videos for band or for different homework projects, you've got to have more cores, and, you know, because there's so many cool effects you can run on different videos and stuff. So I like to use more cores is definitely what I'm looking for. So I'm in the Ryzen 7 camp. 1700X is what I build around.
How about you, Donnie?
You know what? I've always been a perf per dollar buyer, and it's interesting to me to see how multitasking has really gone into the mainstream. We've got guys playing games and watching YouTube at the same time, and on the chat software, and doing like all these different tasks, and it really does make a difference, right? Ryzen 5, at least you're getting 8 processing threads at the bottom of it, where, you know, before in that class you'd get half of that. So it's a meaningful real difference, and it's kind of cool that no matter how far you go up the stack, whatever you can afford, you've got this giant difference in processing power. Very
For
cool.
sure. My oldest son, he's a pure gamer, doesn't do any streaming, doesn't do much multitasking, just kind of puts on the headphones and gets in the game. And so a 1500X is definitely where he's looking, because they've got the high boost clocks, but the great performance as well.
Yeah, I think the quad core parts, like the 1400, 1500X, if you're building one of those $500, $700 PCs, which is super popular as a price point, those are just fantastic chips for that kind of build.
Yep.
So hopefully that answers your question. Which one is right for you?
Okay. Next question up. Any info on the Ryzen APU?
Ryzen Mobile. So we talked about that last week at Financial Analyst Day, coming in the back half of the year. No specifics yet, other than, of course, it's Zen Core CPU, and it's going to have Vega IP graphics, which is really fun. Getting the APU and the big graphics, the whole stack lined up all at the same time, that is going to be exciting. So it's going to be interesting to see what we can do with that in the lower TDP form factors of Ryzen Mobile.
We have a code name.
Oh, we do. That's right.
Raven Ridge. If people were curious, it's codename Raven Ridge.
Raven Ridge.
That's all we can tell you for now.
Yeah, Raven Ridge follows on from Summit Ridge. Use it in the same motherboards. Hopefully we'll get a part in AM4 as well. I know we will. And that's why if you look on these motherboards, right, even though this Ryzen CPU is pure CPU, no graphics, this mini ITX board features graphics outputs. Well, that's because it's forward ready for Raven Ridge.
That's right.
So you just be able to drop it in and build an awesome small form factor PC.
And I'd just like to add, this is the mobile part that I've been waiting for so long. I think this is the APU that everyone's been waiting for. It's really exciting, and I will be buying a laptop as soon as Ryzen Mobile comes out. So
Yeah.
all right, next question up. Is there any word on the inclusion of the AGESA 1.006 BIOS going public across all of the boards soon?
Yeah, Rob, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that is my daily life right now. Let's see.
All of us, right?
Yeah. Let's see. What can I say? All right. So, for those of you who don't have the background, there's this thing called the AGESA, the AGESA, or the AMD Generic Encapsulated System Architecture, which is kind of defines the core capabilities of the BIOS updates that you guys download in Flash at the end of the day. And we release versions of these AGESAs to our motherboard partners, and they build on those to create the files that you flash. And so all of them are now on version 1.0.0.4.
Yep.
And the next major version is 1.0.0.6. Can't say a whole lot more than that right now. Look out for a blog that's coming this month, exactly as we promised. We tell you more about the next AGESA. It is overclocked memory focused, memory compatibility focused. Opens a lot of doors in that department. So there aren't too many days left in May. So keep an eye out for that update, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And as a plus, I know for a fact that if you have the Gigabyte AX370 Gaming 5 or the ASUS Crosshair 6 motherboard, betas of those are available now. So kudos to those guys for getting out some early betas for customers. And you'll hear more soon.
Yeah, check it out on, I think it's overclock.net where they're being
Yep.
posted.
Yep.
So they're not in any way an official BIOS. Haven't done the full regression test to be certified for production use. But
Yep.
if you're an overclocker, an enthusiast, a tweaker, a
Yeah.
tuner, you'll definitely feel like trying out these BIOSes, seeing some of the stuff. And, you can feedback to those makers, what issues you still see or how good it is and help them along. So definitely take a look at that. It's exciting stuff. I mean, AGESA's been kind of a contentious point for us, but it's kind of just normal practice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
previous platforms, we've released BIOS updates to all the motherboard manufacturers that just release over time, and they improve performance and compatibility. It's just that we're doing it very, very fast with Ryzen.
60 days.
Yeah, just a massive, huge ramp compared to anything we've done before, because it's such a great product and it needs our utmost attention to give it everything it deserves.
Yeah, and it blows me away how good Ryzen was at launch, and it being that good, how much more they've squeezed out of it in just a couple months. It's incredible, and really great looking future for that platform. So, next up, what kinds of optimization will we see in the future with Ryzen 7 series in terms of upcoming games, editing for different companies that utilize the processor? I'm not sure what the /editing question means exactly. Maybe
a typo.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. So game optimizations is something that happens very quick and also over a long time period. I know we're working very closely with Bethesda. You'll have seen a lot of work there, but we can also point to people that we also work with ASUS, the Singularity. There was some great work we did with Dota. I know we're engaged on all the major esports titles. So it's very hard to get into specifics because we're walking into green fields, as we like to say. So there's unknown territory as we show off this brand new architecture, this brand new memory configuration, and teach people how to use it. Then there's all kinds of opportunity for more performance. And we saw that, I think, pretty clearly. You demonstrated it in an early blog where we saw 15, 10, 30% uplifts just from simple and easy, obvious changes to programming that didn't impact anybody else's performance, which is the key. So, there's two things I would say is, number one, we're not trying to hurt existing performance. And number two is we want to deliver the best experience for Ryzen that's possible across every game that we can engage with. So that's something unique for AMD because we're the only high-performance processor company that does high-performance CPU and GPUs. So we have a lot of experience and connections already on GPU optimization, and we know how much that impacts over the life of a graphics card, the performance you can get. Now we can bring that attention to bear for a CPU. It's exciting. That's going to be an important thing.
I think the other thing, too, about game optimization is that Ryzen puts AMD into a really good place. We have very high-performance cores with high IPC, high clock speeds. So game developers don't have to do a whole ton of work to extract great performance from the chip because that's what it gives you out of the box. So what we're working on is cleaning up a couple of the outlier titles that were disproportionately slow for whatever reason, and you've already seen updates to that effect, and also extract some of that multi-threading goodness that we uniquely have on top of what the cores give you by default. So that's where we're focusing our time.
And to me, there's really three prongs of this. The first is directly engaging with developers like we've done, like Rob talked to. Secondly, improving the platform, which ties back to the AGESA BIOS. So giving us those higher memory speeds that really give us more game performance. And to me, the coolest part of this, and the part that probably people don't focus on that much, is that because we're giving the market these processors with so much more multiprocessing power than they've had before, because we've disrupted. Once we hit a critical mass, which is coming very quickly, developers will start to say, you know what, we've got a lot of guys out there with 8 threads now, a lot of guys out there with 12 threads now. Maybe we can up our game a little bit in our game engines, and that part is a longer, slower burn, but we're the reason that's going to happen, and that to me is a really exciting impact we've had on the market. So
the game development is really cyclical. You have moments in time where, like, Can It Play Crisis, right? Where you have a game that comes out that's so far beyond what the hardware is capable of, and it drags the hardware industry with you. And then the opposite can happen. You have a piece of hardware that's so powerful that it can get the software to catch up to where the hardware is. And that's kind of what we're aiming for with Ryzen. It was a conscious choice for us to bring 6 and 8 cores to market. We didn't have to, but we wanted to. And we think it is definitely possible that can open doors for game developers who are currently thinking in sort of this 4-core world and designing workloads around that world. What happens when they start thinking wider? That's what we're excited to see.
Definitely. Although I will note that I think Donnie just created a very interesting moment there when We both said AGESA, and he said AGESA.
I think he
Sorry
did.
about that.
Is it GIF or GIF?
GIF. Is this the continental divide? What's
You know what,
going on, man?
I'll defer to your expertise, gentlemen. All right.
GIF or GIF?
That's right. Okay,
Debate
next
rages
up.
on.
I'm Canadian, so maybe that's why something's
I don't
different. I can't say. All right, next question. Is there any reason other than current technological limitations that the Infinity Fabric runs at the bus speed of the DDR memory instead of getting a multiplier as well?
Yes, it's very important for the fabric and the memory to be synchronized. So while the caches run at the CPU clock speed, the fabric that ties all that together, because it's that coherency mechanism and part of coherency is main memory, those have to be aligned. You don't want an awkward stall at the wrong time from your coherency fabric to your coherency storage. So that's why those two are aligned, but we're definitely looking to ways to improve every aspect of the processor. So multi-threading, as we push further forward, then you're going to see more developments on the Infinity Fabric because it's a key technology for AMD as a whole. If you go back and look at Financial Analyst Day, there's a nice presentation by our CTO, Mark Papermaster, talking in detail about Infinity Fabric and how it drives every part of our business. So you see Infinity Fabric in our server EPYC chip, you'll see it in the Vega graphics, you see it inside of Ryzen, you'll see it inside of Ryzen Mobile. So there's all of this kind of stuff is pulling together around the Infinity Fabric. So there's definitely a lot of work to be done there to get to the next level.
Yeah, and I'd just like to point out, because we're AMD and because we're the only company that really makes high-end CPUs and graphics, that it's an important distinction for us to have that fabric, especially for things like our APUs, to have really, really high performance ways of linking those pieces together. So we're going to see some really great benefits from that when we get to Ryzen Mobile. Absolutely. Okay, this is specifically for James. I think.
Okay.
Where can we get Ryzen clothing, and how do I get a Threadripper shirt?
Well,
so step one, work for AMD. Step two, be very close to the part of the team that's building Threadripper. And step three, take the initiative to make your own T-shirt. So,
or just skip all of that and go straight to step 4 and show up at James's house and use his T-shirt printer. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
A deer will eat you.
Well, today's beast is a tarantula the size of my hand on my back door.
I'm out. Nope.
So I have a moat monster. He's ready for your questions.
Nope.
Living in Austin. All right, guys. How do I choose a Ryzen motherboard?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So I guess it depends on what kind of features you're looking for. I'm going to snap to a B350 chipset motherboard as they have the most, what I think is the best price range of options, sub $100 to over $100. And they offer a lot of great features like unlocked for overclocking. They've got 4 channels of memory. You've got the 4 DIMMs, right? You've got all the USB. You've got lots of performance there, lots of options, and you can go from the more enthusiast-focused ones that have all the premium features, RGB out the wazoo, to ones that are some might call more sensible, with no RGB, no dragons, no frills, but they've still got solid performance. So I tend to, whenever I'm asked for what's a Ryzen recommendation, then I say let's start with a B350 motherboard and go from there.
Solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But having said that, right, if you want to get into the Ryzen game, an A320 is a great board.
Yeah.
Still uses XFR, so if you've got a good thermal solution on that processor, it's still going to boost, even though it doesn't have manual overclocking, which is really, really a fantastic feature for kind of the entry level. We haven't seen something like that before. And then all the way up to the X370s with all the bells and whistles, and how much I/O you need, how many USB ports you want, like that stuff enters into those decisions. So it's kind of a personal thing, but
that's true. The A320s do let you build a stock performance PC that's rock solid, which is something that's very valuable. And X370 lets you go for all the connectivity you want. Although I think it's great to see how there's B350 boards that support 2 M.2s, one directly to the processor, one from the B350 chipset. So you get tons of flexibility and tons of performance there.
Yeah. All right, next up, James or Robert, have you had hands-on with the ASUS ROG gaming laptop with Ryzen in it?
I think that comes under the heading of we couldn't possibly comment.
That comes under the heading of I know of it, and so do you. That's all we can say for now.
Okay.
Hey, it's been publicly announced. It's not
it's
a crazy
true.
rumor.
Right.
Teased. That's all we can say.
We can't say anything.
I may have one being shipped to me right now.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe. Does FreeSync 2 work better with Ryzen 5 and 7?
No difference. Like FreeSync. Okay, so FreeSync 2 is a technology that's near and dear to my heart. I love FreeSync. I love adaptive refresh rate technologies. But one of the important things about those technologies is that they have to be agnostic to the CPU you have in your system. So, of course, we want you to use a Ryzen chip in your PC if you have a Radeon graphics card, but we don't want to require you to do that because that's vendor lock-in and that's probably bad news for consumers in general. So, if you want FreeSync or FreeSync 2, all you need is Radeon. You don't get any better or worse experience if you have a Ryzen in the socket with FreeSync. It's important for you to be able to make the choice that you need to make.
Right. Next question. I'm going to answer this one first because I feel strongly about it.
Okay, all right.
What should I do with my FX 8350?
What should
If
you
you're
do with it,
upgrading to
Donnie?
Ryzen and you've got an FX 8350, pay it forward, brother. Give it to
Yeah,
a buddy
yes.
who doesn't have a gaming system, man.
Yes.
Let's give
True.
that guy some gaming chops. Those are still decent processors. You got 8 cores, 8 threads. They'll still get you 60 FPS and AAA. Put a good graphics card on it. Off you go. Multi-processing, very good
That's
for
right.
the class. So, and we're still selling them. They're great chips, man.
Yeah, look at that. Twitch is lighting up with Pay It Forward.
Yeah,
That's
pay it
right.
forward. Definitely roll it down the hill. Find someone who can use it. There's
Although I
lots of
think I just made a
opportunities.
tactical error by acknowledging that I can read Twitch right now.
I can't see Twitch. It's just you.
Okay, well,
Eyes
here
aren't
we
that
go.
good, so.
Be gentle.
Yes. What is this? Oh, that's just rude.
Nasty. Pay it backwards. Pay it back. Well, like send it
backwards?
back to the retailer.
Let's send it back to Rob, and he will pay it forward for you. We want to do that?
Only if we can do that from the same room in your house that we print T-shirts.
Yeah. Get
Oh,
started.
the spider room?
The spider room.
It's all yours.
No, I'm out.
Start a Gamers in Need program. All right. How soon do you think the software market will adapt to 8-core 16 threads since they are so affordable now?
Oh, man. Crystal ball time. So that's really going to be an interesting one. And the real answer is not fast enough. Whatever kind of time frame I put on it is going to be wrong. So let's say 17 months and 4 days.
Yeah. Let's hold up. And the
In 6 hours.
Let's different. Let's be clear that the prosumer market uses it out of the box.
Yeah.
If you're rendering, if you're encoding,
Virtual machines.
giant processor
You know,
advantage.
and you could argue that gaming and streaming today already ready for it. Open broadcasters, ready to use those cores and threads, and you've got a lot of games that are going to sit real well in that ecosystem. So this should be. I don't think it's too far off. It kind of depends on what you mean by when a game is going to take advantage of this. When is a game going to take 100% CPU utilization of an 8-core 16-thread processor? I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to happen because it's a matter of it's not a matter of market or having enough of them around. It's a matter of what kind of game is that? I mean,
Well,
To be
if I
fair,
put
he
on
said
my
software market, not games.
yeah, well, if I put
No,
on my
that's true.
marketing hat, I would say
very distinguished.
that Ashes of the Singularity uses 8 cores and 16 threads. Now
Ah,
it does so
yes.
beautifully. So job done?
Yeah.
No, clearly not. There's more work to do, but it's a continuum, right? It's a continuum.
But for the first time, because of DirectX 12 and Vulkan and our Mantle API that was the impetus of those, developers can, right? They have access to the tools they need if they want to actually build something and use all of those resources. And it's inevitable. 10 years ago, they didn't use that many cores and threads, and it will just keep increasing over time. It's not like it's going to stop one day. But they'll be like, oh, no, that's enough. Like that famous Bill Gates quote that you never need more than 640K of memory or something like that. It will always go up, and we'll just sit here to enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Somebody asked, is the marketing hat made of tinfoil? No, but it makes other people wear tinfoil hats. Ours is made of plush, rich velvet.
Yes.
Only the finest Corinthian leathers.
That's right. Donnie, clearly older than me.
AMD seems to have... On to the next question. AMD seems to have more control over
Oh,
chipsets in recent years. Are you happy with the capabilities now? Anything more you want to include?
Say that again.
Oh, so chipsets, we have more control in recent years. And are we happy with it, or what do we want to include in chipsets?
Chipsets, it feels like we've got to a very good point for the foreseeable future. Lots of PCIe Gen 3, lots of USB 3.0, Gen 1 and Gen 2. So I think that there's opportunities for certain PC manufacturers or ODMs to add in specific chips for specific capabilities. But I wouldn't want to drive those kind of features into the mainstream and make everybody pay for them when they didn't use them. Right?
Hold on. The person says their hats smell like a rich person's library. I'll take that.
Sorry,
Sure. Yes, that's exactly what the
track.
marketing hat smells like.
That's
going to turn into a GIF.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. That does not smell
Or
like
is it a GIF? An AGESA.
Oh,
Sorry, anyway.
AGESA GIF.
An AGESA?
The hat-smelling GIF.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we moving on from the chipsets?
I don't know. I just derailed everything.
Yeah, it's kind
Sorry.
of went off the rails there.
Sorry, not sorry.
So I think the TLDR was, yes, they're great, but more suggestions for what you guys want to see are always welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And next up, will future Ryzens support the AM4 socket, or are you planning to change supported sockets soon, like some companies do? And how much future-proof is the socket?
Well, future-proofness is a very hard thing to quantify, but the intention is definitely leave AM4 around for a long time. We want a long-term commitment to this. It's something that's important to the global PC manufacturers, and it's important to buyers as well. We're seeing that the length of time that people do full system upgrades versus individual upgrades is extending. So I think that it's fair to say that the next iteration of Ryzen processors will definitely drop in. We want Ryzen Raven Ridge to drop in there. We want the next, whatever it's called, Ryzen Next, to slot in the first day one motherboards with just a BIOS update. So electrical compatibility is important to us, but that doesn't mean that motherboards aren't going to evolve, that we can't find a way to do something more and make them interoperability. If you look at AMD's history, FM2, FM2 Plus, AM3, AM3 Plus, or even AM2 Plus to AM3, right? There was a lot of compatibility, a lot of historics. People can put, Phenom 2s into the same motherboards as the last generation of FX, and they all just work fine.
Yeah.
So historically, we've been about more compatibility, and that's, I think, a key focus. I know it's something when I get asked, hey, can we break the socket? No, we can't.
I think another thing, too, is that we have a desire to keep the same socket around for as long as possible. Getting down to the brass tacks of it, it's a selling advantage, right? It's attractive to consumers to have a consistent socket. So we are a company, and we do want you to buy our products, and having a reliable socket infrastructure is a way to set ourselves apart. So preserving the same socket for as long as is feasible is a goal of ours, but predicting the future is hard. What if DDR6 happened, or PCI Express Gen 4? Those things require socket changes because they require different pins on the bottom of a CPU. But those are the kinds of things we're thinking about. How long do we keep this socket around, and how far into the future are these other standards? And that's what we're trying to balance when we make these kinds of choices.
That's definitely a good point, right? The next a driver of a socket change would be a new, substantially different technology like DDR5, PCIe Gen 4. So
I think
those
it's
are
DDR6. Well, skipping a gen. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I know. We should
What do you
make
know that we don't rub?
Yeah, we should just make it.
What is that?
Let's go ahead.
No, don't do that.
I'm going to add an anecdote here, and I'll date myself, but it was a big deal for me. Long before I worked at AMD, I was a young guy trying to buy computer components, didn't have a ton of money, right? And I was like, what do I do? And I had this crazy Frankenstein, I think it was an ASRock board, that allowed a daughter board socket 939.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Oh my God, that was so cool,
Those are
right? I didn't
bananas.
have to buy a whole new system, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the crazy engineeringness that AMD loves.
Yeah,
and
I did
comes
that.
From, so.
Went from the 939 to the 940 CPU, and then in the daughter board had the CPU cooler sticking up a certain way. You couldn't get the giant towers on it, and your memory was right there instead of up on the board. That was so fun.
It was crazy, but it was awesome.
And that had a good resale value. I remember selling that on and getting some good money for it, so I could buy into the next gen as well.
All right, next question is Thunderbolt 3 support? Question mark.
That is.
So
we are not the right company to be asking for that. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, you can go talk to PC manufacturers or motherboard makers about any of the chips that they want to put down on their motherboard or inside their PC or on add-on cards, but it's not an IP that AMD owns.
Yep, there are no hurdles on our end for that one.
Nope, if it's PCIe, it works.
I love this one's great. Why is it called Threadripper and not Ryzen 9? It would fit well with Ryzen 3, 5, and 7.
Basically because Threadripper is just such an awesome name. How could you walk away from it? Once you've
Pretty much.
got the name Threadripper,
Yeah.
and someone says, no, Ryzen 9. Like, 9? Why? No, Ripper. All right, so any time you're looking at something, you're just like, should I just call it a version 9 of this? Or should I call it a Threadripper or a Monster Hunter or a Graboid Chaser? I don't know what it is. Right, but you can't.
How did Graboid Chaser not make it out of committee?
Right?
Yeah,
So-
that was a close number 2.
Those are all trademarked. Don't go looking for those products. Wait, what?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? Like, people like Good, Better, Best and 357, and Threadripper just sets itself so apart. Like James said, it just needs its own classification.
That is the real reason,
It's
right?
just
Is we're going after high-end desktop. We're going after the ultra-premium PCs, and people there buy brands, not numbers, right? If you look at any different organization, any different market segment, the most premium things are the ones that have an emotional connection because it's a brand name that evokes a feeling. And Threadripper tells you exactly, as you as an enthusiast looking for 16 cores, 32 threads, what are you going to do it? You're going to rip some threads to shreds.
They got 96 problems, and Threadripper gets rid of them in 3 clocks.
How long have you been working on that bomb of a joke, Donnie? Donnie,
I actually stole it from somebody.
tell me later.
Well, Fozzie Bear called. He wants his joke back.
There you go.
Waka waka.
Ryzen 1600 set a new 6-core overclocking record at 5.905 gigahertz on LN2 already. Does this imply that the Ryzen architecture could do so as well if optimized further?
So I think the question
That
is,
complicated.
can you optimize Ryzen or Zen architecture for higher clocks? Well, that's certainly not a new concept around here, with the current world record being 8.7 odd gigahertz on an AMD processor. If you look at the world's highest clocks, the top 20, you've got 18 AMD processors and 2 non-AMD. So high clocks, definitely something we're looking at, but not at the expense of single thread performance or performance per clock. We don't want to abstract that away, because it's definitely an important thing. So we're going to continue to evolve and drive. So you've got version 1.0 of Zen right now. You know that there's going to be a version 1.1 and a version 2. So who knows what that's going to look like.
And I will say, I've said this before, Ryzen is the worst case scenario that you could have. You have a brand new architecture on our first run of a brand new process. It is
That's a tough job.
It is very tough, and it's the worst case scenario. And we still hit 4. It's going to get better. It's only going to get better.
Yeah, nearly 6 gig on LN2. We'll get to even higher clocks for those of you that like to do the digital equivalent of drag racing.
I can see the headlines now. AMD James confirms Zen 1.1.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, 1.2175.
Yeah.
3926.
Niner.
Ooh, I like this question.
No nines.
Oh, sorry. Right.
That's right.
Right.
And
No
with a
nines.
7 or something. What is the situation with IOMMU groups? Are things getting better for Linux virtualization? I love this question.
I also love this question. Let's see. You will be very happy with AGESA.6. That's all I can say. If you are a user who uses PCI Express ACS and you care about IOMMU groups, and I know you guys are very passionate about that, and many of us have talked, you will be very happy with .6. Stay tuned.
And just to riff on virtualization in general, I mean, Ryzen's such a great chip for that. There's so much potential, so many cores, so many threads. Try to virtualize a Core i5 with 4 threads.
If
You're not gonna
Wendell's
go very
watching,
far.
he just got really excited. Yeah.
Very good. All right. There have been a lot of updates to allow more and higher memory clocks for motherboards. Will this trend continue? Address that.
Yeah, we kind of already said, but
Yeah.
yeah, sure,
Yeah.
we're going to do more and enable more. We definitely want to not only let the enthusiasts and tweakers have more fun and do more things, but we want to improve compatibility with existing modules. It's kind of a tough situation because we've got this proprietary non-standard standard out there.
But let's actually rewind. Like, what is the standard?
Right, it's XMP2, which is very catchily named to mean doesn't work with anything else. Or, you know, there's some kind of acronym anyway. It's an extreme memory profile, but it's basically a method for overclocking memory using overvoltage and suggesting timing parameters. So it's kind of a way for memory manufacturers to screen their memory modules to work on specific processors, and then the motherboards can decode those extra values. So we've got great JEDEC support, highest in the market right now, JEDEC 2667, and we've got now the challenge ahead of us is turning that into proprietary memory standard support, and it's going pretty well. We've already seen 3200 on several different modules. I know that Samsung B die based modules are pretty easy for us. The Hynix stuff is starting to come along too. I know you've spent a lot of time playing around with that stuff.
Works nicely.
And it's not impossible. It's just, you've got to decode it. It's just Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
God, I could spend all day talking about memory.
Yeah.
We're putting a lot of work into memory, guys. Like, there are people, teams of people working to make memory better, and it's working, and it'll go further. So don't worry. We're on it. We're on it. We came a long way fast, and we're gonna go a long way more. So, all right. Will the CPU pins be more bend resistant? Don't drop your CPUs. Just be careful, man.
Quit poking them.
Just be careful. Don't smush it in.
I think the real question that people are getting at when they ask something like that is why PGA versus LGA, right? Like what governs that decision? Why would you use pins in the socket versus pins on the chip? And the true answer is pins on the chip is cheaper for you. That's really the reason why. Like it makes for less expensive motherboards, less expensive processors, and it's a cost saving measure for you. And in terms of reliability of both over the long term, it's about the same. It's really no difference. So be careful with your motherboard in the LGA case. Be careful with your processor in the PGA case. But I think that goes without saying. And net should be all the same, and you save money.
And if you're changing CPUs, just twist the cooler a bit. That's the trick.
Oh yeah,
break the vacuum.
The AMD wiggle. You want to just
wiggle. Yeah, you don't just yank it straight out.
Yeah,
just
that's bad.
give it a
Just
little
give
twist.
it a little twist and then.
Can we just? How long can we all just?
No.
That'll be a great
that'd be a
photo
gift
op.
too.
Yeah, it's gonna go
Good times.
somewhere. I can tell. All right, can we expect all the hidden RAM timings and settings to remain hidden, or will the overclocking scene get access to them in the near future?
What a good question.
I wonder.
Well, ponderables.
That's another photo op. If we all look to the left and up.
No, I'm good. So many. So many.
So many screenshots of this already.
It's happening.
Yep. It's going to show up on Reddit.
Would you say the Ryzen 5 1600X is the sweet spot for today's tasks such as gaming, streaming, and multitasking? Is Ryzen 7 maybe overkill for those?
Ooh, sweet spot. That's always tough.
Man, once it comes back to you, right? What do? If you do a lot of rendering and encoding, a Ryzen 7 is a giant leap. Like, it's a big difference. If you're a guy who plays around with that stuff and it's not your primary focus, the 1600X is a sweet spot. I mean, no one's going to argue with that. It's a beautifully priced, overpowered processor. But maybe if you don't need that, you'll be happy with a 1500X or something. So it really comes down to the user. I don't know if you guys can add a lot to that.
Sweet spot is just about your budget. For me, 1600X, 1700, somewhere in that price range. That's my sweet spot for a CPU, just based on cash.
Yeah, if I had just a gaming hat on and being an overclocker, I would snap to the 1600. Right, I would say that's the guy.
Yeah.
But being all the other things that I am, then 1700, 1700X is going to be where I say. So I think I think we've got a great selection of processors for that whole sweet spot
Yes.
band.
Yes.
200 US through to just over 300. We've got great options and a lot more choice and capabilities than anything else out there. I think the decisions, not do you buy AMD or the competition, it's just which AMD do I buy.
That's
It's hard to pick your favorite kid.
We're being asked to dab in Twitch. No, because then we'll show up on the fellow kids subreddit or corporate memes, and that would be bad. I don't want to show up there, so it's not happening. As
I
all
hear
the
you.
people off stage do it. Good times.
Badly. Oh my goodness.
No dabbing.
No doubt.
What other questions do we have, Don?
I don't know what dabbing is, Robert.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
What kind of optimizations can
Which
be
kind
made
of
to the
dabbing?
Infinity Fabric? Does it need a whole new CPU generation, or can it be improved via AGESA updates?
Let's see. So, how you utilize the Infinity Fabric is a complicated question. So, I'll answer it simply by saying we can manage performance with upstream AGESA updates.
Mhm.
The motherboard partners and OEMs can manage it with their contributions to the BIOS. And we can also increase its utilization through smart programming. So if you're a developer and you're aware of the architecture of Zen and different processors, you can develop your program to take the most advantage of that. But
Sorry.
you could also chicken head it. Well,
I was.
sorry, Twitch.
I'm looking
It's
up
so
the-
distracting.
I have to look up the Cam Newton dab. I'm sorry. I've just been told on Twitter, so I apologize.
And then-
for that.
His Canadian is tingling. It has to be
yeah.
done.
but then there's stuff we can do architecturally inside the design. And like I said, check out what Mark Papermaster, the AMD CTO, says about Infinity Fabric for more on that subject.
Okay, and here's a question that's close to James's heart.
Mhm.
Any news on open sourcing the PSP code for Ryzen?
Nothing we can share today. It's still a very strong topic here at AMD. It's definitely something still in consideration. And I can understand if there's some frustration that it's a non-answer of, we're still looking at it. But there's a reason, right? We're looking at more than just the market opportunity, but understanding fully what are the ramifications and implications, talking to customers as well as potential customers about what is the impact here, what is the ramification. This is not something to do
It's not done in a
overnight.
vacuum.
It's not done in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You've got to understand the implications, and you've got to watch the worldwide economic conditions too to see what are you really looking at long term.
Long story short, I think people want us to come to a very fast answer, and it's not possible. It's going to take us time, and we just ask that you be patient with us while we think about it, talk about it, and then we'll have to get back to you when we make a choice.
And I can say that it is a regular topic for our top executives to discuss. So this is not happening down at a low level with some guys in the back room trying to noodle on it. This is, a fully integrated consideration across the company.
Okay, and good answer. And a quick one.
Thanks.
Between a Ryzen 5 series and an FX 8350, which is better?
Ooh.
What is better?
Um,
Seriously, what is
yeah.
better?
Depends on what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a price point advantage for one versus a performance advantage for the other. There's going to be some technology advantages for one. There's going to be some simplicity and stability advantages for another because of length of time in market and accessibility of parts. So today, if I was looking to build, I don't think there's a Ryzen 5 at the same price point as an
it's
FX.
a price.
I think they're
Yeah,
just
they're
kind
they're
of
decision, I
above.
think.
Yeah.
they're kind of just a different spot, right? So it's really, does your budget stretch to Ryzen 5?
Yeah.
Go for Ryzen 5. If you're not quite there, then FX versus anything else is going to be a way to go because you get all the benefits of multi-threaded applications along the way.
Yeah, if you at low budgets, FX is still pretty killer for multi-threaded apps. It just still is. I mean, we're fighting 2-core, 4-threaded options in a lot of cases, and it still has some strength. So
Yeah, in fact, I was on Twitter today, and someone was mentioning that they just built an FX 8350 and I think GTX 970 system. They bought the parts secondhand and whatnot, and the whole system was like $400 or something crazy like that. And that's a hell of a gaming rig
Yeah.
for $400. And so really it comes down to how much you want to buy, right? It's all budget. Regardless if you're spending $1,000 on a system or $500 on a system, what can you afford and buy the best in that envelope?
That's a very good point, Rob, because we always tend to think about the early adopters, the first adopters, the people who rush to the brand new phones and PC technology and the latest versions of applications. But there is a case for staying back off of the bleeding edge so you don't get cut, right? So there's a lot of people are going to be able to get into the last generation technology even more accessibly than ever before with great results because they're going to take a nice step up from where they were before.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting time because if you buy a CPU that's an FX or a Ryzen, I can't think of anything that FX can't do. Maybe gaming and streaming at the same time on a CPU and code would be tough for it, right? But it'll play a AAA game. It'll render. It'll do all that stuff, right? So it's how much you have to spend, how much what you value, what kind of tasks you really value, and what you need. So. How are you supporting developers in optimization regarding Ryzen, and if?
I think
are
we doing it, and how are we doing it, and if we're doing it?
If we're doing it, and how are we doing it? Yeah.
So on that front, the if is pretty simple. Yes, we are. Obviously, we've done some great optimizations already. So how is kind of boring because it's just logistics. So we send out developer PCs and sample kits. We've sent out, well over 4 digits now to global companies, and it's not all just AAA dev houses. There's independents, there's gaming houses, there's
Middleware
VR
guys.
houses, there's middleware guys, there's application developers. So it's going broad and wide. We support with where we can one-on-one engagements to understand Zen architecture, but we do public activities like you probably saw back at GDC in March. We did this presentation on how to optimize for Ryzen and understand the Zen core, and that continues to evolve. But there's we try to push these things out. A new version of Code XL was released
just recently.
with Zen core supporting that. So if you want to characterize performance, understand that there. I believe there was a Linux compiler released that is optimized for Zen.
That's right.
So if you're looking to, inside of your own environment, focus on your hardware, there's a compiler for that. So lots of things happening.
Yeah, it is definitely a multi-tiered.
We also have game developers on staff. Little
We
known
do.
fact, AMD
Yes.
has game developers on staff.
We do.
Yeah, and we will send them out to help developers in certain titles with game engines and help them squeeze the most out, which we've been successful with in the last couple months, especially. So
if I can jump in, actually, I see the ITX question coming up again for people who have joined midway through the stream. Wanted to circle back on that because I know it's a hot topic. So step one, I have the BioStar X370 GTN. I'll put the Ryzen side up. This is the world's first ITX motherboard for Ryzen. It is on sale now. Great little board based on the X370 chipset. There's also a B350 chipset version, slightly less expensive. Now, people ask me all the time, are there more boards coming? The answer is yes. When are they coming? In the next probably 30 to 60 days, I think is a fair characterization. And the third question I get all the time is, why did it take so long? Well, ATX motherboards and MATX are far and away the biggest market, and they are also the easiest to design and manufacture. So if you are a company looking to support the Ryzen ecosystem, you start with what's big and easy, and that is ATX and MATX. As we go into the summer, they're going to focus on the smaller batch, more difficult to produce motherboards, and that means ITX. So designs are on their way. Stay tuned. You'll hear more about it in the days ahead. And I think that should answer all the questions about ITX.
okay, for everyone in the panel, fill in the blank. Ryzen is the best CPU because blank.
Oh.
My situation is very specific, but I'm a World of Warcraft player, and there is a program called Simulation Craft, SimC. And if you have a ton of gear for your character and you want to know which one's the best, you have to test all the permutations of that gear to see which one is the best and each set of gear is tested 10,000 times, and it hammers the CPU. And on my old system, which was a unnamed quad core, that ground my system to a halt. It was unusable for anything but that simulation while it was running. Now with Ryzen, I can do the sim and continue playing my game. So I do that frequently, and that is something I do all the time that has been made better by Ryzen. So that is what I like Ryzen for.
That's a good answer. I think for me, it's price performance because I was previously doing a lot of video encoding, transcoding, some gaming, and I had an unnamed 6-core. And the price for me to upgrade to Ryzen 7 1800X level of performance is over $1,000.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're a guy that makes your own T-shirts, you're not got $1,000.
It's because you bought a T-shirt printer, James.
I did this by hand, man. Right? Well, I should give full credit. My wife, who's likely watching this, hello, is the genius behind this beautiful T-shirt that's getting so much acclaim. But, you know, I don't have, you know, $1,000 just to drop onto, you know, a single component and say, here's $1,000 for 2 more cores.
Right.
When I can go to Ryzen and get motherboard, memory that's faster, and a new processor, plus great new coolers and all the RGB LEDs that I could possibly want, right? And still have money left over for, you know, a great family meal for everybody. So it was definitely price performance for me. It, you know, it improved my gaming, it improved my transcoding and encoding. It changed, you know, it changed my PC. It made it a lot nicer, a lot better.
How about you, Don?
And it was low power too.
That's the key, I think. For
Right,
me. Yeah.
more performance with less power use. I'd stop right there.
I could list anecdotes on a personal level, but and I touched on this before, but to me it's the best CPU because it will actually change what we all expect from a CPU as they roll out, as developers have access to more cores, more threads, more processing power. It will change what we can do, the software they give us, and that's really meaningful. That's really, really cool. We haven't seen that for so long. It's been a long time. We've been incrementally going up really slowly, and it's really nice to see a spike that changes the game a little bit and wakes everybody up. To me, that's why Ryzen's the best CPU.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, like I had this need for more cores than I had in my system. I didn't really know that I needed it until it happened, and then I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing out on. But there was no way I was ever going to pay the price to get those cores before. Like, not a chance. And then Ryzen comes along with all this potential on tap for me. And, you know, the needs of my system have grown into what Ryzen offers. You know, they kind of say that your life grows to fill your budget. Well, my computer has done the same. And it's just made life better. And I haven't noticed any difference in gaming. And I play probably more games than I should.
It all. Is inter-CCX latency a problem?
No.
Loaded question?
Nope, next question.
Okay, cool.
I will say that there have been some theories that it's a problem, and in the internal testing we've done looking for ways to improve gaming, it wasn't something that significantly... everybody wants to point a finger at one thing and say, that's the problem, and that wasn't it. It's just not it. There's a bunch of other levers we're pulling. Memory was one of them that we're making faster and is showing nice ramp-ups in performance. So
I think it's more simple. It's just applications were used to a specific kind of
Core
memory
layout.
model and core layout, and this was not inside that exact same definition, so it just needed a little bit of tweaking to understand the architecture, and all of a sudden, boom, there's all the performance.
Or you're just like Overwatch, which runs amazing out of the box and needed no poking at all. So
Right.
there's a shining example. Thank you,
Yes.
Blizzard.
yeah, everything runs amazing out of the box. Just we don't always win everything, but we always give really smooth performance.
Yeah,
and
that's what
something
matters.
that too many people gloss over. It's really fast. It's a really fast processor. There are some outliers that we've worked on to improve already, but it's not like anybody's out there going like, oh, Ryzen's like, it's a fast gaming system. It's crazy fast. Show Robert this. It's a link.
God.
Aaron, did you?
It's safe for
Okay.
Is it safe for Robert?
No.
NSFR. Yes.
Don't meme me, bro.
But wait.
You guys see that? Probably not.
Sorry. Do we?
Woo!
That's not funny.
That's actually very funny. Okay.
I love it.
Last question. Is it time up already?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Could you explain SenseMI a little bit? It is a feature that a lot of people don't fully understand that well.
If only we had more time. I
If
could
only
talk
there
to-
was some kind of technical marketing
yeah,
person
there was
here
a guy who
could give us just a 30-second overview of what is SenseMI.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so a processor is a lot of dynamic voltage and frequency changes. That's kind of the distilled thing of a processor. It is constantly assessing its environment, how much power it's drawing, what temperature is it running at, how close is it to its design limits, all these factors that relate to power, clock speed, temperature. And SenseMI is analyzing all of those in real time and the flow of information going into and out of the chip and making the best decision for you to optimize the performance of your app. Now, there's a lot more I can say about SenseMI, but that is the basic gist. Analyze the environment, do something useful with it.
And the reason we put it under one word like SenseMI is because there's so many pieces of it. But if I had to say one word, it would be intelligence.
Yeah.
It's an intelligent processor. It actually has a neural net built in to prefetch to do really like an actual neural net, which is kind of cool. And it will intelligently look at what you're doing and make those decisions so that you get the most out of every second of your processing, which is very cool.
I think the other thing too is like a lot of people on Twitch will be enthusiasts, like really hardcore PC gamer types who sort of intuitively know a lot of what goes on in Ryzen or have read extensively about it. Maybe SenseMI is a brand name that's not quite for you. Like in marketing, my specialty, it's a funnel, right? You have very simple and high level up here, and as you go deeper and deeper into the customer knowledge base, you get much more detailed and more specific. So with SenseMI, we're trying to capture people up here, but if you want to talk down here at the really technical, we can. Find me on Twitter. We'll talk about it all day long. But yeah, we want to keep it simple for the everyday person, and SenseMI allows us to do that. And it's our way of telling people it's a chip that learns and is smart.
All right, I'm getting the red light flashing at me, so I'm being told that we've got to sign off. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
it has
so
been
much.
fun.
I really
Thanks,
enjoyed this.
everybody.